shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. Hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
The gospel today comes from the 10th chapter of John. Jesus says, "Very truly I tell you, anyone who does not enter the sheepfold by the gate, but climbs in by another way, is a thief and a bandit. The one who enters the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will not follow a stranger, but they will run from him because they do not know the voice of strangers." Jesus used this figure of speech with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them. So Jesus again said to them, "Very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. The thieves come only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they might have life and have it abundantly." The gospel of our Lord. Sheep and shepherds. I don't know a lot about sheep and shepherds. I know that I have been told of this story and the setting for this story that many shepherds would get together late in the afternoon or early in the evening and put all of their sheep into one sheepfold that was built with bramble bushes or something to protect the sheep, and they would put them all in there so that only a few of the shepherds had to watch them at a time, and they would run shifts at night to watch the sheep and to keep them safe. And then in the morning, the shepherds would come and call their own sheep, as we heard Jesus talk about. Jesus said, "The shepherd calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice." Jesus wants us to know his voice. Jesus calls us to be like the sheep from the first century that knew their shepherd so well that they would come at the sound of his voice. And the psalm, the 23rd psalm, seems to fit what we are talking about today on this Good Shepherd Sunday, and it certainly seems to fit on this whatever day of quarantine it is. I've lost track like most of us have. So let's take a look at that paraphrase of the 23rd Psalm that Darla read. God is my shepherd. I do not need a thing. Isn't that so true? Haven't we found out in this time of quarantine how little we actually need? How much we often have and how little we need? How excited we get to go to the grocery store. Hopefully you will get just as excited to come for communion on Wednesdays. But the psalmist tells us, God is my shepherd, so we are like the sheep, and I don't need a thing because God is there with us. The psalmist continues, you have bedded me down in lush meadows. You find me quiet pools to drink from. When we are at our best, when we are most in tune with God, don't we find that peace, that comfort, that joy that we so desperately seek in our lives? To be bedded down in lush meadows, to be drawn to quiet pools to drink. And he continues, true to your word, you let me catch my breath and send me in the night in the right direction. We can trust in God's promises. That is one of the greatest things of this 23rd Psalm, is that it reminds us of all of the promises that God made for us. From Adam, through Jesus, through the apostles, all the way to Revelation. We can rely on all of those promises of God. Even when the way goes through Death Valley. Now, Eugene Peterson isn't talking about Death Valley out here on the 395. No, he's talking about the valley of death. He says, even when the way goes through Death Valley, I am not afraid to when you walk at my side. Franklin Delano Roosevelt is famous for saying we have nothing to fear but fear itself. But I looked it up, that's not what he actually said. And I looked it up, I thought he said it on his television after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, but no, he said it at his inaugural speech right after his swearing in as President of the United States in 1933. Let me read you a paragraph from that 20-minute speech that he gave. It's the very first paragraph of that speech. He said, so, first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. In every dark hour of our national life, a leadership of frankness and of vigor has met with that understanding and support of the people themselves, which is essential to victory. And I am convinced that you will again give that support to leadership in these critical days. Doesn't that fit for our nation today? And doesn't it fit every time we hear the words of the psalmist, even when the way goes through Death Valley, I am not afraid when you walk at my side. Your trusty shepherd's crook makes me feel secure. That shepherd's crook with the hook on the top. The shepherds used it to prod the sheep along when they needed prodding, and he used the hook end to grab hold of them if they'd fallen into a ditch or they needed to be pulled in some direction. You think God still uses a shepherd's crook for us today? You think he prods us when we need prodding and pulls us in when we need to be pulled in? You serve me a 6-course dinner right in front of my enemies. Now, I don't think that I have any enemies, but I'll sure take the 6-course dinner. I think in this day and age, we don't live in the same world that they lived in then, when enemies surrounded you on all sides and there was war everywhere. Sometimes it seems like it's nasty like that. But for the most part, we don't live with enemies on every every side of us. I think we are lucky to have been born in the United States and not have to put up with that. But if we did, we could know God's promise to be with us. He says, you revive my drooping head, my cup brims with blessing. Again, when we are at our best, we are realizing the God-given blessings that we have. Your beauty and love chase me every day of my life. In this paraphrase of the psalm, this is my favorite line of all of them. Hear it again. Your beauty and love chase after me every day of my life. Imagine the joy in our life if we can realize that God is chasing us. Wherever we go, we can't go far enough or wide enough so that God doesn't chase us every day with that joy, that beauty, and that love. And it concludes, I'm back home in the house of God for the rest of my life. That joy lasts more than a day. It lasts more than a quarantine. It lasts for all of eternity. So as we continue through this time of quarantine, I hope that you will continue to call each other. As I talk to you on the phone, that is one of the best things that people tell me about. Is that, oh, I talked to so-and-so and I talked to so-and-so, and it was so good to hear their voices. So keep calling each other. It's much appreciated. And keep praying, keep having your time of devotion and Bible study. This week I invite you to read the first half of the book of Acts. Last week we read the book of Luke. And this week Acts, because they're by the same author. Luke and Acts go together. And so read the first half, 1 through 14 of Acts. And as we conclude this sermon time together, let's conclude with the end of Jesus' talk about being the good shepherd, being the gate. He says, I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. And that is what we should have in this time and in this place, is abundant and joyful life to share with others. In Jesus' name, amen.